You are listening to the Bring Joy Forward podcast. Conversations to explore, heal, and grow. You can find us on bringjoyforward.com and join us in our community group on Facebook. We now take you to the episode. Thank you for joining us. Hello, and welcome to the Bring Joy Forward podcast. I am Shannon Dias with Imaginative Media, and I am joined by Shannon Brown from Open Door Healing. And we're here to talk about the topic of honoring change and also kind of recognizing when maybe you need it, but you're holding on to something else for a little bit. We were kind of talking about it ourselves this morning and pulling some cards and realizing that sometimes it's not an easy concept for people to recognize what that looks like and how it feels when we are changing. And there's this fear that is associated with change in general. And so we kind of wanted to touch on, maybe being able to recognize that in yourself and honoring the space that change happens. There's nothing that we can do about it. It's going to happen. There is no control over it. So the only thing that we have control over is ourselves and how we react to that change, how we interpret that change, how we recognize it, and how we live our lives with the idea of it being ever changing, which I think as a human is sometimes a difficult concept to work with. So I just wanted to start with the basics of recognizing in your body where change can manifest. And it's different for everybody, but I think we all kind of feel this like tension or heaviness, sometimes a vibration, but recognizing that that's coming in. It can even, form as anxiety, but recognizing where that is coming into your body. And sometimes we have to get hit with it a few times before we're like, oh, wait, that's what's happening. So maybe just kind of starting with that, in terms of what it looks like for you, what it feels like for you, and how you work through that. What are kind of like the steps that we do for that?
So yes, definitely as I grow older, my body is definitely changing, and I've been through a really big change the last 3 years and trying to adjust to the way that this, I don't want to say old body. It's a new body it's acting in a different way and trying to adjust with it. And of course, going through the whole, why is this happening to me? And then being in despair because I can't get as much, because honestly, I have shit to do and I can't do as much as I used to be able to do. Right. And so my big message that I've been receiving is you got to slow down. You have to slow down. And on those days that it doesn't want to work like I want it to, I do have to slow down. And there have been days if I get one thing done that I wanted to get done, I have to be happy with it. And then there's other days where I'm feeling like, oh, it's awesome and blah, blah, blah. And then I get everything done I want. But then the next day, it's another day of one thing done. It's like, why did I do that? Why didn't I pay? What? Until I get this lesson of slowing down. And so that, pain is one of the biggest messages of slowing down. If you're in pain, your body's like, stop, and not sure about the way that you were brought up, but I was brought up like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think the whole time that I was working in the Muggle world, I called in twice sick to work, twice out of, 40 years of working. Okay. And then I was like, why? As I go down, I look at it, it's like, why? Because now I want to call in sick just to my regular day. I don't even, like I don't want to do anything today, but there are things that you have to do. So again, if you, I think it's important to listen to your body. And I think if you don't listen to the subtleness of it, then it will continue to get your attention. I had an awesome meditation yesterday with a group of friends. And let me just backtrack a little bit. I just was on a retreat in Sedona and I was told that I needed to talk to my back. that would help with some of the issues that I'm going through. Have I done that? No. But during the meditation yesterday, it literally, like, we're all in silent meditation, and I felt this energy come through my back, and I let out a sound. And what it said to me was, I need space. And I've been saying that for a while this year. I've just felt like I've been in this little container and I need space. And so now I'm trying to say, okay, how am I doing that? And especially, I'm removing a lot of things from my life, that allow me to have that space. I don't know exactly what that means. That's going to look like. But if it means removing some things that and I think we've talked about this before, removing those things that I no longer have energy for, that doesn't move me in the direction of joy and peace and simplicity. That's another thing. Simplicity. Sometimes I tend to make my life very complicated. Oh, I say yes to this, or I say, I want to take this course. I want to, have 5 flower gardens. Oh yes, I can go to this party. And then I sit back and go, what the hell did I do that for? So again, I think it's also, what is it that you're moving towards, or that you want to move towards? So yes, mine is joy, peace, and simplicity and grace. And so I'm constantly having to ask myself the same questions. And also in coming with listening to our bodies and feeling those subtle things, when something does happen and I feel a twinge, it could be a voice, it could be a twinge somewhere. It could just be a feeling. Like sometimes I get a lot of like pressure on my back, and there's nothing going on. It's just like all of a sudden it shows up. And so on my point, I try to do is say, okay, what is it that you want? What is it that you need from me right at this moment? So that, because something obviously is happening, something is trying to get a message across to me. So just taking that moment, take some breaths. What is it that you need from me right now? And is it something, if I can't, let's say I'm in the middle of something, can I come back to you? Or what I'm having to learn this year, is it something that I have to surrender to? Like my parents' diseases, both of them having dementia. I can't do anything about that, but I have to surrender to it and just allow it to happen and just be the space, so yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and that surrendering to it is kind of key to all of it, right? And because we're not just talking about recognizing change, we're talking about honoring change. And I think that's the big difference. You have to recognize it, sure. You have to see that something is happening, and it may be small, subtle changes, and you mentioned all of the different ways that those things can come in, and only you are going to grow into understanding what those things mean for you. Everybody has a different, relationship with the world, with spirit, with themselves. And so each one of these is going to manifest itself to you in a different way. And so that just comes from doing it for a long period of time, accepting what your role is in it, and just continuing on to do those things and grow with it. And then it just becomes a knowing. You start to go, oh, okay. And even that, no matter how long you've been, in this awareness, even that, sometimes we need to get hit over the head with something, because, we're stubborn humans and we don't like change. And, even the people who like adventure and running around, like, it's still a difficult concept. We like stability. We like to be grounded. It's the first chakra that you come to, is stability and groundedness and sense of home and space. And so when anything gets shaken up in that space, it can be traumatizing, even in small little doses. And so recognizing that, but you have to honor that the things are changing. And that comes with acceptance. It comes with accepting that it's changing, and then accepting that you have no control over the actual event, whatever it is, whatever the change that's happening, whether small or major. You have no control over those things, but you do have control over self. And so it's understanding that that's actually really powerful, having control over self. And the more that you can understand, excuse me, yourself, the better you can work through those things. Um, and just finding, you mentioned that, that space. I think that's another key to all of it, is finding that space to understand it, allow it, grow with it, and not jump to the next conclusion of what that's going to be or react to it, to be able to sit with it. Yeah.
Well, and I think space is so important, just because I think as humans, we contract, and especially those of us that have been told we were too much, and that's another podcast, or, that we don't want to be seen or heard, because that's what we were told as children. Children are to be, seen, not heard. I didn't follow along with that really well, because I have a voice. That was one of those beliefs I didn't pick up on. But I think that we've made ourselves, a lot of us have made ourselves so small. And then when we are around those people that are really big, and I can think of a few that come in my mind, it kind of jolts us, that they take up so much space. And that was one of the things that came from the retreat too, is take up your space. So as we release all these, this energy that's stuck inside, and it could be good or bad. There's really not any good or bad. It's how we view them. But as we release all those and we find the tools, I use tapping, all the energy, journaling, simple little things, watching your dog play, any way that we can release that energy that is stuck in us, that we're holding on to, because we want to hold on to the good things. But again, you're holding on to it, allows us to be more spacious. And as we take up our space and we're more spacious, it just allows, I think, the beauty and the love of the universe and Mother Earth to come in. And it just, that's what we're filling up with, instead of holding, so it's not just holding on to the negative, but also, because we want to hold on to the good stuff because it feels good. But it's the spaciousness of who we really are, which is spirit, and I know a lot of us, okay, I'll say me, sometimes so frustrated about being trapped in this human body, because there's so much I want to do, but there's limitations. But going beyond those limitations by opening up to spaciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't let, it's just the way physics works even, you can't let things in if there's no space for those things to go. And that applies to everything. That applies to your physical space. That applies to your mental space, your, spiritual space. If you don't have the capacity to hold whatever it is that's waiting for you, then you're not going to hold it. You're not going to see it. You're not going to even know it's there. It's going to be gone before you know it even existed. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is we see time and time again, from when we were kids all the way, up to now our adult lives, things that we thought we wanted, we thought were good for us. We were holding on to it because it was this great thing. And then once we let it go, something else that was more aligned, and I'm not even going to say better, because sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not, but it's more aligned for what we need at that moment. And so, so just honor that change is coming, recognize, that it's there. And the more you kind of sit with that, the more you can maybe not even understand it all the time, but allow it to happen. And continuously look for those ways to seek more peace and some joy in those changes as you go. And like I always say, like, just follow where your heart is telling you to go, because I've not yet found that to be something to steer me wrong, even if it's not necessarily the thing that people think I should be doing. If I'm following where my heart is telling me, and not what everything else is telling me that I should be doing, I end up in the right place. So just keep following those little voices and those little feelings that you get, when it's light and airy and you open up into the world, that's where the magic is. So allow those to come on in.
Yep, perfect.
We thank you for being with us today on the Bring Joy Forward podcast. I am Shannon Dias. You can find me most places on the internet at Imagine If, and you can find all my information at bringjoyforward.com in our directory.
And I'm Shannon Brown with Open Door Healing, and you can find my information also on the Bring Joy Forward community network.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. You have been listening to the Bring Joy Forward podcast. Conversations to explore, heal, and grow. You can find us at bringjoyforward.com, and we'd love to have you join us in our community Facebook group. Thank you for listening.